This Forever in My Heart Foundation is going to be what we're talking about tonight. This is one of the few organizations that use rescue dogs to be trained as service dogs, focused solely on disabled veterans who have given so much to our country. And these dogs are donated to the veterans 100%, and they're based out of Middletown, Connecticut. Meryl Lickey, the founder of the Forever in My Heart Foundation, started the organization from what was her lifelong dream, driven by her love and dedication to helping animals as well as people with disabilities. Working with experienced certified trainers in various animal shelter rescue groups, they are able to save the lives of many homeless dogs and train them to become service dogs to help our disabled veterans. So what a great topic for our group and for the public to be educated on. Mira is here with a special veteran that's currently part of their training program, Kay Colello, and one of their very special dogs, which is 1-year-old Miley. And we're excited to have them here. Kay's presentation is going to be including facts about the organization and their mission statement, statistics regarding disabled veterans and shelter dogs here in the United States, and the reality of people suffering from PTSD, and actual stories of our veterans dealing with disabilities and the impact that these dogs have on their lives, and the short-term and long-term goals of the organization. So we look forward to hearing more about your organization and more about how Miley and you have gotten together. So with that, Mira, I'm going to have you come up.
Okay, I'm going to fix the computer. Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us today. First of all, I want to thank you all for service to our country. And I am Mira Lickey. I'm the founder of Forever in My Heart Foundation. And I want to tell you a little bit about us. So we are pretty new organizations, although our trainers has been training service dogs for almost 30 years. So I started the organization to really save lives of shelter dogs and help people with disabilities. We are a 501c nonprofit. We are 100% volunteer. We don't have a single paid person as our staff, so everybody has full-time jobs and do this, in our free time, if you can call like we have any. As you probably all know, that the veteran situation in the country is a huge crisis, and there is really, there's many veterans organizations, but still, with everybody's help, we have 22 veterans committed suicide every single day. And PTSD and TBI, it's an epidemic in this country. So are we a miracle solver for those veterans? No, we're not, but we have scientific proof that those dogs do more for those veterans than therapy and medications. So about our program, these are some of our veterans in training. That's Kay in the middle with the Miley, that's Will with Lexi, and we have Elvis with Bruno. And, just to tell you how those dogs change their lives, Will is at UConn doing master degree, and with veterans with PTSD, even being in a classroom sometimes is impossible, because of their anxiety, and they can't concentrate. I will tell you more about Kay, and she will tell you her story. Elvin, actually, he has a college degree, but he couldn't work because he was sweating, anxiety, dealing with people in a work environment. It was impossible for him. We had veterans in our program that couldn't leave their house because of, anxiety attacks. They wouldn't even go to Dunkin' Donuts for a coffee. And after, 4 years being home confined, now they living a pretty normal life, driving, going places. One of them spoke last year at our gala in front of over 400 people. So, the bond with the dog and what those dogs are trained to do, really, the medical facility cannot really help them the way that we do and the dogs do. So right now, some of our dogs are still with foster family, but some of our dogs are trained at the York Prison. So this is another program that we recently started, and it's working out wonderful because not only those dogs are trained on a daily basis and there's structure there, but also for those inmates, it's unbelievable what the dogs do emotionally. I mean, we have inmates in the program that never had a dog or never petted a dog, and now, actually last weekend, because our trainers go there every single week to do training sessions with them, and he says, they were crying that this is like a gift sent from God to them to have the dogs there. So they're making a huge impact on the women at York.
Where is York?
In Niantic. So why, shelter dogs versus, breeding dogs? I was just talking actually here about Fadelco. Fadelco breed their dogs, and we actually have a great relationship with Fadelco. To us, the reason why service dogs are $25,000 is because there's very few dogs that could be trained for service dogs. It's because of their temperament, environmental, and a lot of other aspects. But actually, our fail rate for our dogs in our program is not any higher than Fadelco breeding their dogs. So, we decided and started the organization, with a goal to save as many dogs as we can. And even the dogs that fail our program and are not placed as a service dogs, usually the foster family, we give them the first right to keep the dog, and they have a great families and great life. And actually, our foster families pray for the dogs to fail because they don't want to give them up. So anyway, but those dogs, as you can see, with the veterans that we have, lower about 60%. Veterans that have a service dog, they have 60% less chance to commit suicide. So that's a huge percentage. And we have veterans in our organization that it's proven that, after a year of owning a service dog, they lower the medication intake about 30%. So that's also a huge, achievement. So dogs from shelters, 33 million dogs in the U.S. shelters on a daily basis. 22% of them will never make it out. They'll get euthanized. Can we take any dog? No, only 5% of the dogs will pass the assessment and could be put in a program to be a training for a service. And it doesn't matter if it's mobility, PTSD, or blind. I mean, it's pretty much, even that the dogs are trained to perform different tasks, it's the same requirements. And even out of the 5% that we take, about 40% fails the program and never makes it to the end. But still, like I say, we save those dogs, and either the dogs are placed with a veteran as a service dog or they are being adopted. Our dogs will never end up in shelter because by the time that the dog fails the program, it's perfectly obedient, trained, and trust me, those families will never give those dogs up. So, they still have a great, great life. So our training facility, we take dogs, puppies or under 1 year old, because obviously coming from shelter, a lot of them will have some kind of environmental issues. If they're young, we can work through those. If they're older, we can, and that's what really fails them. We can teach the dog to do anything. When they fail is on environmental. The dogs are evaluated, we have assessment. It takes about 12 to 18 months to train the service dogs. And then once we match the dog with a veteran, we'll train them for specific needs of each individual veteran. Our training facility is in Andover, Connecticut. We have 240 acres fields there. And our trainers, they have over 25 years experience in training service dogs. Scott and Stacy are the head owners and head trainers. Their business, for-profit business, is Hub River Shepherds. They devoting their services to the organization, so we're obviously grateful and thankful to them because it's hours beyond hours that they devote to those veterans and the dogs, not talking about driving to York and spending a day there once a week. So as an organization, because we are all volunteer run, we obviously always look for help. We look for applicants' referrals, which I have brochures if you know any disabled veteran that can benefit from having a service dog. We look for referrals. We obviously screen them. We look at their finances. We look at their medical records. We want to make sure that someone can really benefit, and the service dog can help them. because just because someone is disabled doesn't really need that there's a need for a service dog, and we don't want to put 18 months of our time and money into training a dog that's going to become a pet. Because if the dog doesn't do work on a daily basis to assist the disabled person, it becomes a pet, trained pet, and we want to make sure that the dogs that we do place, there's really a disability that the dog can help and improve. We're always looking for foster family, because even the dogs that we have at York, we pull them on the weekends to expose them to a real life environment. We're always looking for volunteers, so if you know anyone that would like to get involved in the organization, we have once a month volunteer meetings in Berlin, and there's a lot of areas that's behind the scenes that anyone can get involved, from devoting very little time to, whatever the person can. Our long-term goal is to build a housing and training facility which will house veterans that don't live possibly very close, and they can come and stay at the facility for a few weeks or a month or however long it's going to take to train it. We'll be able to expand the program and offer to people that cannot get to Andover for training once or twice a week, because that's one of the main requirements. They have to be at training every single week. So this is a goal that we're going to start raising money, and and hopefully in a few years we'll be able to have the indoor training and housing facility for the foundation. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for me about the dogs, about what we do. Go ahead.
What type of dogs are you training? Is there any particular breed?
Yes, so our trainers are very particular about the dogs we get for training. And we don't look at the intelligence of the dog, because honestly you can teach any dog to do any task. Some dogs will take longer, some learn quicker. But we need to look at the genetics of the dogs, because you have to understand that some of these dogs are put with disabled person and have to sit by their side for 8 hours a day. So like Border Collie, for example, it's an extremely smart dog, but that dog was bred to hoarder. So if you put this dog 8 hours sitting next to a person, eventually this dog is going to get depressed, okay? So we look at genetics of the dog. So we have mixed breeds, but we try to stay with the Shepherd, Labrador, or Golden Retriever breeds, or mix within those breeds. We do have right now one Great Pyrenees in training, and he's doing great. But when we get the dogs, we really look at the breeds and the genetics, and if it's going to be fair to the dog to do the work that the dog is doing. And also, when we match them with the veteran, we know what kind of lifestyle this dog is going to have, and we look really closely, which veteran should receive which dog. Go ahead.
Is there another term for service dog which is clearly not meant not to indicate that dog is a pet or a comfort animal?
Okay, so, there's a huge misconception. Actually, I had a presentation at VA a couple of weeks ago, because even the VA employee are confused, okay? So there is 3 different types of dogs that you may see with vests. There's therapy dogs, which therapy dogs are basically trained to go to senior centers, hospitals, and spend some time with the residents or patients at the hospitals, just as a comfort zone for them. Those dogs are allowed in public spaces that, want them to come in and basically be a comfort to the residents or patients or whoever. There's emotional support dogs, which you basically will have as a pet, but the dog will give you emotional support, helps you with anxiety, depression. These dogs are not really allowed in any public spaces, at least the space allows dogs. Service dogs are dogs trained to assist person with disability. And the dog needs to be trained to do specific tasks, to help this person, either is blind or mobility or PTSD. And these are actually the only dogs that are allowed by the federal law in any public space. So I don't know if that kind of clarified and answer. And it's really, so we fall under the American Disability Act, which is not really, it specifies what service dog is and who should assist, but it doesn't regulate really those dogs. So you see a lot of people which actually we try to stop, but into federal government changes the regulation, there's not much we can do on a state level, because you see dogs that someone puts a vest on and takes them as a service dog to public places. And you know what? And it makes it awful for our dogs or any other organizations that train service dogs, because those dogs misbehave. Kay had the situation at VA that the dog tried to bite Miley. So it's a really, really bad situation, and people are not responsible. They have untrained dogs, and they're putting them in a public situation. ECAD, which is another organization that trains service dogs, I spoke to their president, and he says, you know what, we had one of our dogs. You have to understand, by the time, we are all volunteers, so to train our dog, it cost us about $18,000 per dog. For ECAD, that they have paid employees and facility, it's about $50,000 to train a dog by the time they're done. So they had one of their dog on the plane, and another dog attacked the dog. That dog was so traumatized that basically they have to pull him out of the program. So $50,000 basically went down the garbage because of people that are not responsible. So, it's an unfortunate situation that we deal on a daily basis, but until the federal regulations change, there's really on the state level, nothing that really can be done to change that. Go ahead.
Does it matter to your training program whether the dog is male or female?
No, absolutely not. We have both.
Better results from
No.
female dogs?
No, absolutely not.
And do you work with shelters all over that they contact you and say, we think we might have a puppy here that might fit in with your criteria, or?
So we are right now, because we got the York contract, and we're placing dog there, and we can have pretty much 10 dogs at any time at the prison. And we're building the program. So we're actually starting to build a relationship with the local rescues, so we can actually take the dogs to our training facility, assess them, and if they don't work out, return them. Because when we bring dogs from south, and the dog is no good, we're stuck with the dog. We have to basically place it for adoption. And with so many things going on, we don't want to become a rescue that gets dogs, and we have to look for families and screen them and do house visits to adopt them out. So we're building relationships now with local rescues that bring the dogs from the south, but we can pick the dog up, assess it, and return it if it doesn't work out for them.
What's a typical assessment?
So we really do environmental assessments, So first of all, temperament of the dog, is it food aggressive? We do simple tests like, pinch their paws and see how they react. If they do nothing, that's good. If they start biting, that's a bad sign. We do environmental. Are they skittish? Are they afraid of anything? Can we take them to dark places and things like that? So there's several steps that the trainers assess the dogs before we put in the program. But like I said, that means nothing, because it's impossible for us to assess the dog, totally within a few hours, And honestly, and the dogs that we have in training, sometimes it takes months for us to find out. Like we have one dog that actually I kept. We took it to, and we thought she's a bombshell dog. We had this dog everywhere, and she was fine. We took it to Mohegan Sun, and they were playing the loud drums right next to her, and she just flipped, and we failed her. We can't have a dog with a disabled person that gets scared and reacts. So so sometimes it takes us months before we even find out that there is something wrong that the dog is afraid of. It's things like that. That's why we expose them. We take them everywhere. On the trains.
So are the veterans really aware of that if they come in to train and then they get close to a dog and then all of a
So
sudden?
by the time we place the dog with the veteran, the dog is
Okay,
tested.
Okay.
The dog, we pretty much know. Go ahead.
Do you have a waiting list?
So it really depends at a certain time how many dogs we have and how many veterans do we have, and if it's a good match, because we may have a veteran apply and we may have dogs available, but we may not have the right dog for this veteran, because we know these dogs inside and out, and we know exactly what environment each dog should go into. So sometimes veteran will apply and we say, you know what, that would be a great fit for the dog, and he may get dog from us quickly. And sometimes they have to wait because we just don't have the right dog that will fit. I mean, every dog veteran is a relationship, and we have to make sure it's successful. You know, we don't do first serve, first come, because it never works. So, you know, we have to make sure that the dog is in the environment that he's going to succeed and it's the right fit for the veteran. You know, like for example, I mean, Kay needed Miley for bracing. So, I mean, we had other dogs, but, you know, they were not capable to work every day and brace. So, we had to have a dog that's strong enough and can do it, you know, and do the right match. So, we do it individually based. Sometimes you have to wait, sometimes, you know, you don't. It really depends what dogs we have in training. Go ahead.
What about feeding and potty training?
By the time the veterans get the dogs are perfectly trained. Our dogs are trained to go twice a day, in the morning and at night, and they fed twice a day. So all day long you can have the dog for 10 hours, they don't go to the bathroom. So,
really?
mm-hmm. So by the time the veteran gets the dog is perfectly trained. Go ahead, sir.
With all the work that you're doing and everything, the government doesn't come in and help you with
No. Nope. We don't get a penny from the government. It's all private donation and fundraising events.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. So the lady actually asked, so they did pass the house, federal house, that the VA is going to start covering service dogs for, veterans with PTSD, but it passed the House, didn't pass the Senate. By the time it's signed, it may be a while, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. But right now we do events and private donations, and that's how we run and that's how we train our dogs. So talking actually about events, I know it's still early, but we do once a year a big gala. And this year, and I can email Leslie, it's going to be October 3rd on Saturday at the Marriott downtown Hartford next to the convention center. So if anyone is interested, please, come. That's our biggest event of the year. The rest of the year we raise money. Our dogs eat, it's going to be funny, but we do pierogi making classes. And that's actually a huge fundraiser. We raise a lot of money on, making pierogis and selling frozen pierogis. So that's a smaller scale event, but it brings a lot of money to the foundation. So, go ahead, sir.
Do you have any interrelationship with the Veterans Administration?
We do have relationship with the Veterans Administrations for referrals, and things like that, but not for receiving any money. I mean, the thing is that to get money from the VA, it needs to be a program that's approved program for this purpose. And we are actually the only organization in Connecticut that donates those dogs for free, because ICAD is in Connecticut, but they charge $25,000 for their dogs. So there's really, we're the only ones, and there's really nothing in Connecticut that's in place to, donate money to organizations like ours. Go ahead.
Do any private insurance pay?
No. No. So the problem is, we do some mobility training, but we don't get that many applications for mobility, because now there's the artificial limbs, so there's not so many people with mobility problems as they used to be. So most of our dogs, we'll do mobility like case, bracing and things like that. We train the dogs simple, tasks for mobility anyway, but most of our dogs are trained for PTSD. And until just recently, PTSD was not categorized in a disability, shelf thing. They thought it's a kind of psychiatric disorder, but they did not consider them as disability, like, being blind or, physical disability. So that just recently changed. And, to tell you the truth, and Kay can probably tell you more, honestly, those people, they get run around in the VA. The VA, it's really giving them a lot of problems versus helping them. The VA is a mess as it is, and they don't get this care. So we check medical records to see if the person should be approved. Sometimes we don't get a call back from VA for 3 weeks, and we have to call and leave messages. It's not that easy to work with them. And the Newington VA is a little bit better about calling back than the with Haven. But that's the reality. They have a lot of people. I don't know if they short staff or not, but I know that it's not easy for the veterans, especially the veterans that have emotional problems. It's very hard for them to fight for the benefits that they should receive. So I mean, it's as bad as there's organizations that actually assist them in telling them what benefits they should have and where they should go. Okay, so it's pretty bad. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Once you train a dog for a special veteran, does he end up with the dog?
Yeah.
The dog is his from then on?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kay, and then Kay will tell you her story. So when Kay's been with our program probably since July, Kay? July. So when actually we met Kay because her social worker contacted us. And when we went, and actually I was the one that went and did a house visit for Kay, Kay was an emotional mess. I mean, she cried probably for a good 70% of our house visit. So Kay, had a brain tumor, she had a brain surgery, she had some abuse issues from military. I mean, she basically says I'm done. I used to be a teacher. I will never go and do my job. She wasn't driving. She would sleep to noon, get up and walk in her pajamas, never get dressed. So it was, pretty bad situation. So we said to Kay, I said, Kay, okay, if you're going to get a dog from us, you have to get to training. How are you going to get to training? And Kay says I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll take an Uber. So Kay started coming to training, but within probably 2 or 3 months, coming, Kay says, you know what, I'm going to go and buy a car. So Kay went and bought a car, and now she's driving. She's been with us, like I said, since July. And in September, Kay is going back to school to teaching. So I guess Kay will tell you, but Kay had also a problem going up and down the stairs and falling. So Miley is trained to brace her on the stairs, and if Kay falls, Miley helps her get up. But Miley basically structured Kay. So Kay says Miley wakes me up in the morning and I have to get up and I have to get dressed and we go for walks, and by the time I come back I am all refreshed and ready to go. So now I have a plan and I have a schedule. So she doesn't miss her appointments, and she's driving now, so she's a lot more mobile, and Kay will tell you the rest of the story. Come on, Kay.
I'm Kay again, and I am a former Marine and a Desert Stormer. So I was kind of hesitant about saying I was a former Marine, but I do understand that there are other Marines here tonight as well. Semper Fi. So I had multiple caregivers, and as Mira noted, one was a social worker, and she came to the house several times to help me out, and then mentioned one day, after learning about my case, after dealing with me, said, there's this foundation that you should know about. I'm going to contact them for you. And Mira will be calling you. So sure enough, very quickly, they act quickly. They do not wait like the government. There is no hurry up and wait at the VA. Mira is very fast to get back to veterans. I, again, as she noted, I had brain surgery about a year ago. I am a TBI, I have PTSD, and MST. I was assaulted in service. So I've been dealing with a lot of things that I need to get over. And so Miley is such a good dog. She goes with me almost every day. I think I always joke and say I live at the VA. But she goes and she knows the way everywhere we're going now. So I'll say left, she turns left. I say right, she turns right. So what the foundation does is they really fit the dog to you. There was a dog that I had in the beginning, and my left side is weak, and I couldn't make him do anything. So it was a switch. So they do custom fit that animal to you. And then one day I see this beautiful marshmallow walking along, and it was love at first sight. So she's just a fantastic dog. And physically, for me, she has done an awful lot of things for me. She's a medical device, number one. She helps me walk. She helps steady me. She helps me up and down my stairs at home. And she also helps me, I mean, going down is amazing because usually dogs run downstairs. But she takes one stair at a time. So when Mira talks about the training, these dogs are very well trained. So she also helps brace me should I fall, and if I do, she does help me up. So I've been with her now for so long that I am used to her stabilizing me. She's got her shoulder right on my leg as we walk, and she's very, very careful about where she leads me, if we should go left or right. She knows. So she's definitely my best friend as well. She's given me so much and so much pleasure in my life that I couldn't be more grateful. An interesting thing is that Miley kind of custom fit herself to me. When we had that ice storm, or we had a storm during this year, wherever the snow is, and there was some ice, and I had to take Mira out. I wanted to take her out for the evening for her to go to the restroom. And on two of my stairs, there was ice about this thick. And so when I came outside, I was like, oh no, how am I going to get down these stairs? And so I went down slowly. She took the first 2 steps with me and then bit the ice, determined how deep it was, and then scratched a section about this wide across for me. I was stunned. And even when we got to the grassy area, she dug a path for me so that I did not fall or slip. So she kind of custom fit herself to me to do things that I needed. I was taken aback. I immediately texted Mira and I was like, can you believe what she's done? So she is an amazing, amazing animal. She does have me up. She gives me a reason to wake up in the morning and to have a routine established, which is something I had several years ago as a teacher. And then it just kind of went by the wayside. The worse and worse my symptoms got before my brain surgery. So I am up in the morning worried, oh, she has to go to the bathroom. Let me get up now. I'll get myself dressed. I'll go outside and I'll do all of these things to take care of her. And she takes care of me. So it's basically this circular relationship that we have. You know, we're both taking care of each other, and it is fabulous. As far as comfort is concerned, she, like I said, is my best friend, and she's constantly by my side. She either sits or she lays down. She does not move. She's just there for me, and she does. She lays all day by my side. I thank Mira so much and this foundation for giving me what they have given me. So Forever in My Heart is something that is really wonderful for us veterans and the veterans who are disabled and in need, as well as Miley Girl. So could I please have a round of applause for Mira and the Forever in My Heart Foundation. And Miley too. Oh, thank you so much again for having us here and for having me come and hear me out while I talked and talked about my dog. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to just tell you one more thing, because, I mean, as you can see, Miley was kind of on my laps. That's kind of interesting story about the dogs. I don't spend much time with the dogs because I own a full-time business and run this foundation, so I don't really have many spare hours. But I'm usually the one that go and gets the dogs from the shelters. When we get the dogs, I am the one to get the dogs. And even that I don't spend that much time with the dogs, Kay will tell you, when I come to the training, when the dogs see me, they run like crazy. Like, they act like, you know, I own them and they lived with me. Just like Mali, I mean, I haven't seen Mali for a while, and she was like licking. It's amazing, like the dogs always know who got them. Every single dog we have in the training that I picked up acts like that. It's really, even that I don't spend much time with them, they know. They absolutely know. So, go ahead.
How should we react when we see someone who has a service dog?
So don't touch, basically, because the whole thing about the service dog is the dog is trained to be with and assist one person. So the biggest thing is when you see the vest, don't approach, don't touch the dog. The dog is with one person and should work with the one person, and just let it be. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Do the dogs, when you go to the store or you go shopping or anything, is there any objection, people that, like for instance at a church, would they try to stop you from taking the dog in?
So legally, they cannot stop you. By federal law, those dogs are allowed in all public spaces. So, and actually we take our dogs to grocery stores and train them. We kind of put a cart, sit the dog next to the cart and say wait, and we'll do all the grocery shopping, come back, and the dog waits there for whatever long we need to.
They have to have that jacket on, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference where you would know the difference.
And and the thing is, okay, to tell the difference, to tell you the truth, so any reputable organization that trains dogs, service dogs, Fadelco or us or ECAT, they will have their logo on the vests. So if you see people with just slapping vests with a service dog, most likely they bought those vests on Amazon and slapped it on the dog. Okay, those dogs are not trained by anybody particular. Most organizations will have their symbol or their logo on the vests of the dog. So, that's one way of, telling. Go ahead.
Are dogs colorblind?
So they don't see full color like we do, but they can see shadows of colors.
So in other words, the red light, the green light on the thing, they know how to tell.
Well, they will tell more by the up and down, where the lights. That's how they really train. Yeah. So I don't know if they see red and light, but they will tell which ones is switching and, identify it.